Hi, this is Bob Roberts, and I'm the dead man talking. I have stage 4 cancer in my liver, and possibly only a few months to live. So I've invited 4 of my best friends from college days to talk about cancer, suffering, death, hope, and God. I can't wait for you to meet Will Gawkin, Jason Jans, Ellis Murphy, and Josh Darnell. My desire is to tackle big questions and challenges that my probable near-term demise raises, and to always season the sobering with humanity and humor. Don't expect nice and tidy solutions with a bow on top. It's going to get messy.
Welcome to episode 17 of the Dead Man Talking podcast. Our dead man, Bob Roberts, is still alive, and so the podcast is still going. In fact, we got some good news this week. Bob, you want to share that with everybody?
Yeah, after my dual liver resection surgery, my latest PET scan shows no visible signs of cancer. My oncologist told me it's certainly still in me microscopically, and we just need to keep fighting against it. They recommended a course of chemotherapy. Probably not going to do that, praying about different options, but as of right now, this probably should be mostly dead man talking. Because it looks like I've got a few more years by God's grace. And this is
almost dead man talking.
Just a quick thank you to everybody who has walked this journey with me, prayed, supported me. There's just no doubt that this was a sovereign road for me to walk, that after 25 months we really got a fair bit of good medical news. So because I'm a mostly dead man, we brought a pretty well goner. we brought a
In fact,
a new dead man talking onto the show, and I want to.
In fact, appearing on this show is high risk activity. What's your life expectancy now? Give us that. Tell people how to frame this.
I have a 40% chance of 5 more years from here. So that's where
good.
I fit. That's where I fit. So I mean, I'll take it, man.
That's better than it was.
So what's the life expectancy of the podcast then?
Well, I mean, we had talked about and prayed about hitting 30. And there's been some people that have generously supported us that I've said, hey, our goal would be to hit 30. So I feel like if we hit that benchmark, it's going to be a big day of rejoicing.
Just so you all know, most of the cost is for Bob's makeup artist. So that's why we've needed the support.
For sure. Well, and then the self-affirmation guy. You know, I've needed that guy. Because, because Cancer Face gets needy.
Hey, Bob, you have to tell them about Cancer Face.
Oh,
because I think we're going to talk about Cancer Face this weekend.
All right, I will. But let me introduce. I've been fanboying over our guest. Okay, I have idolized our guest these many years, and Trevor Gearhart is just an absolute treasure to the human race, and he has influenced all of us on here. I would say for me, he showed me what it was like to get on stage with real confidence, even though he may not have known what his next words were going to be. He was fearless. And this is in the highest of praise. He's the world's best baloney breather. Like, if there was dead space that needed filled and needed to keep people on board, hand a mic to Trevor Gearhart and you're fine. You're fine for hours.
You're saying he's the king of hot air.
So a true talent there, but then also in his friendship and in his desire for transparency. He and I have shared some some awful late nights together praying and confessing and loving on each other. And then I stole his secretary. This is my claim to fame. My wife was working for Trevor in 2006. And she came to Trevor one day and she said, "Hey, I think this guy, Bob Roberts, I think he and I are going to make a run for it." And Trevor said, "No way. That's not going to happen. That's just a camp crush kind of situation." But Trevor, we're just delighted you're here and we're so glad you're alive.
I am too, Bob. Thank you. Thank you. I actually don't want to say anything. I want you to keep going, man. I want to see how long you go and dream up something nice to say about me. I got plenty of people that say all kinds of bad things about me, so I'm basking right now.
Trevor, tell us what you remember about Bob taking your secretary away. Tell us about that. What do you remember?
Well, I'm still pretty upset. I'm still pretty bitter. But I think Sarah was far better off the way that she is now, living life with Bob. Terrific girl, and I'm super excited for them. There was a point that Will will remember this. There was a point where they were starting to talk about getting a little more serious, and I remember I had the audacity to say to Will, "What do you think, man? Should I push for maybe her to consider finishing off her contract before?" And Will's like, "What? What are you smoking? No. Let the girl go. Let her marry the guy." And I was like,
we've been trying to get Bob married off for years.
Whatever it takes. We want anybody to take him off our hands. So please, Sarah.
Do you remember how smooth he was in the dating?
So not very, right?
That's par for the course.
Oh, it's so funny. No, I just remember he was in my office visiting with me a lot suddenly. And our conversation would somehow morph into Bob and Sarah talking. And, I'm still bitter over that, but I'm trying to get over it, Bob.
He didn't really care about you.
No, not at all. No.
Well,
yeah.
I do now.
And now he wants you on the pod. Yeah, he just wants you for ratings now.
That's it. Whatever it takes. I was an access point to what he wanted. And so he got her.
Well, Trevor, why don't you tell us what happened? I mean, I remember seeing on my phone, Trevor Gearhart has been taken to the hospital and he ran into a pole or a building and had to be resuscitated. And I was like, ugh. I mean, not like you were, but I was pretty shocked. So why don't you tell us what happened? Give us the story.
That's a good point. Yeah. So much of this, I don't fully remember myself either, Jay. It is still surreal to me that it actually happened. And I talked just this past Monday, which would have been 5 days ago. I talked to the fire and rescue team that saved my life and emotionally connected with them and told them thank you through the tears and all that. But essentially what happened is I was at the gym. I'll say it's the gym. It was actually the pickleball place. And I really don't even remember. It was an afternoon session. And I remember getting a request from a friend, "Hey, we're short one. You want to come?" "Yeah, absolutely." But I don't remember showing up. I don't remember playing. At the end of that time, though, I got in my car to travel home and missed a turn that I would normally take. And I'm not sure to this day why I missed it. I don't know if I ran a red light. Again, I don't remember even driving the car. All I know is that my car went off the main street, College Avenue, ran into the side of an apartment complex, and ended up inside the stairwell of this apartment building. And my car was inside, and yet the angle I hit it, the airbags didn't deploy for some reason. Several people must have seen me weaving on the street because there was a call to the policeman right away. And I think within a couple minutes of impact, a policeman was on site, couldn't seem to break the window on my driver's side, but broke the window on the passenger side. And right about that time, that's when fire and rescue showed up. So that's 3.5 minutes into it. And by it, what I mean is that I'd had a cardiac arrest, what's called a ventricular fibrillation, or a VFib. That's the nasty one. That's the worst of them. There's several different kinds of cardiac arrest, but this is the bad one. My daughter, who is a helicopter nurse, in other words, she's part of, the not life flight, but stat flight that she works for. It's the same thing. They're the ones that come in on the this is exactly the kind of scenario that they would fly in on. And she recently had to review some of her material. And she said, Dad, I just studied this. VFib heart attacks, every minute that you go untreated, you're 7 to 10% more likely to die. And I said, so I'm doing the math, 10 to 15 minutes untreated, that means death, right? She's like, yep, pretty much in every case. Then I looked up some statistics after that. There's some argumentation about how many VFib cases there are in the US each year, but ballpark, 250 to 300,000 VFib cases, some in the hospital, some outside of it. And in about half the cases, the person dies. And there's another percentage of those people that, the brain is without oxygen long enough that when they do come back, it's not the same person. So I was about 3.5 minutes, as far as I know, 3.5 minutes into this heart attack when fire and rescue showed up. The policeman who had broken the window gave way to the fire and rescue guys who dragged me out of the vehicle, immediately started administering CPR, hooked me up to an AED, a defibrillator, and shocked me twice, and got me stabilized, threw me into the ambulance, the fire and rescue ambulance, got me to the local hospital. And that was on a Saturday afternoon. And I don't remember anything until after surgery, which wasn't until Tuesday. So I was awake and lucid, but going through the loop of asking people what happened. Dee Dee said that those first few days, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, she kind of had the script figured out. What happened? And that I have this shocked expression. She showed me a video of it. What? I wrecked my car? And then my first question was always the same. Did I hurt anybody?
Yeah.
Fortunately, God was kind enough to keep me from doing that. I didn't run over anybody. I think I would still, I'm not sure that I would be able to talk about this incident if I had hurt anybody in the process, but didn't hurt anybody in the building, didn't hurt anybody on my way off the street into the building either. And so then I had triple bypass heart surgery Tuesday, 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yeah, 3 days after the incident. And then my memory started to step it up a little bit, started slowly returning to the same obnoxious person that I am today.
You were healed.
And what other, you kind of jacked your body up too, right?
Yeah, so I don't think that there were any internal injuries from the impact. Again, the airbags didn't deploy for whatever reason. I don't know if it was the angle. I don't know if it's the fact that I was driving a pretty crummy 2014 Ford Escape, but whatever the reason, the airbags didn't deploy, but I still didn't show any signs, as far as I know, of internal or even external injuries. I was slumped over in the seat. And then the rescuers, by virtue of doing their job the correct way, apparently chest compressions usually result in broken ribs. I didn't know that, but I had broken ribs. I don't know how much that really mattered, because by the time you're split open, and your rib cage is pulled apart to get to the heart surgery location for the triple bypass, I don't think that broken ribs really mattered that much, because the doctor is going to pull it back together and wire it all shut anyway. And that's what happened.
We saw the updates on your delirium, but like when you finally actually like really understood what happened, like walk us through that moment and where that hit you.
It's almost, I don't want to say an out-of-body experience. I don't want people to get the wrong idea, because I never left my body. I did have one of the rescuers ask me, so did you see a bright light? And I told him, honestly, I don't remember a thing.
Did you see something dark?
Well, I was joking. I was joking with Ellis and Bob earlier. I just remember being surrounded by flames and dark souls everywhere. And Bob, you and Jay were right there, and we couldn't see him. He was too deep. He was too far down. I couldn't see him.
We were exhorting Trevor to really leverage those 3.5 minutes for book deals, movie deals.
Out of that.
Tracts. I mean, at least let's crank out a good tract from it.
Come on.
All you got was a podcast. I mean,
that's right. Move over, chick. I got my own cartoon tracks. I'm ready to write. But no, to answer your question, Jay, I still think that I was in disbelief. So if you go to bed at night, wake up the next morning, and you're in a hospital, and you've been told this whole crazy story of how you died and were brought back to life, and your rescuers have visited, and people have been here talking to you for the last 3 days. It's a surreal moment, because I believe these people, but I don't have any recollection of any of that. So I think once I finally stopped the looped repetition, what happened? Did I hurt anybody? Once I stopped all that and kind of accepted the reality of it, then, your mind is just focused on trying to get better, trying to heal, trying to get out of the hospital. Bob, I don't know if you have the aversion to needles that I do, but even just being in a healthcare facility, I'm not much of a trigger guy, but if there's anything that would trigger me, that would do it, I think.
So there's like this disbelief, and then there's like, no, this really happened. And then where does your mind go? You just look at your wife and your kids and friends.
Absolutely. It's funny how people oftentimes use the expression, it's good to be seen. And people sort of nod and smile, whatever. But honestly, I think the first overwhelming emotion that really flooded my heart was just gratitude. Because, we'll probably dig into this a little bit, guys, but there were some dark times for the couple of years previous. I know a couple of you guys are familiar enough with my story that, there's been some bumps and bruises. And quite honestly, there have been some times where I told God, I'm not sure how valuable I am down here. Would I be more valuable there? And, not to the extent that I was ever planning anything or would ever harm myself. I'm too chicken to do anything like that. But, the thought that I'm worth more dead than alive, probably like most of us. And the fact that I don't want to be a burden on anybody. And the fact that, I struggle with feeling like I'm not that helpful sometimes. And some of that I've been battling through. And the fact that God knows that, the fact that Jesus in his compassion had every opportunity and for 3.5 minutes plus gave me a chance to see what it's like if, I'm on the other side instead of here. And instead brought me back to life and allowed me to see my family and gave me another shot.
Amen.
I think it was a form of God's mercy that you don't remember some of it. In those intense trauma moments, I think it's one of the way God says, I love you, by saying, you know what? I'll take care of all that, some of those things. And I will say this, some of that stuff may come out later in your memory. I'm just thankful the Lord was gracious in that way.
One thing my family remembers well is that I was constantly ready for the catheter to be removed. I'll just leave it at that.
Yes. Yeah, I've been there several
So I kept
times.
asking about that.
Yeah, it's very painful. You're right. Seriously. It could be very painful.
Oh, yeah.
I want to go back to the moment where you basically said, I had this kind of a revelation that I'd rather be alive than dead. And, talk us through that, because you've also got family. I mean, I went to Caringbridge and you had like 44,000 people. I'm on Caringbridge all the time, as a pastor, and I work in a low-income community, and there's always these things being set up. I've never seen that. If anything, brother, whoo.
That was overwhelming to me, Jay. You nailed it. That was overwhelming to me. I don't want to put myself on the George Bailey level, but I think it's easy to be self-piteous and to wonder what the world would have been like if I had never been born. And, the whole classic movie, the whole classic tale recounts what the world would have been like if there had never been a George Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life. I would consider what I went through something that in some ways parallels that. The outpouring of compassion. I don't even know if I could name, outside of you five, I'm not sure I could name 4 friends, let alone 4,000, let alone 44,000. And the fact that so many people were eager to post something, say something encouraging, send a card, pay a visit, send a text, pick up a phone. I can't underscore strongly enough, Jay, how just the overwhelming sense of gratitude and joy that God surrounded me with so many people who were nothing but gracious and kind and loving. People that came out of the woodwork. So, yeah, it really was overwhelming.
I sent you flowers and chocolates.
You did.
In the hospital.
I actually have a picture of me holding those things. And
do you?
I do. I don't know if we ever sent it to you. But in true my own personal style, I rearranged the letters. I don't remember what it said. It said get well. I think the letter spelled out get well. I'm gonna have to look at my
Chocolate
phone.
stick, yeah.
I don't want Jay to get all the glory here for reaching out to you in love, because I remember distinctly, really like on day 2 or 3 after the accident, I reached out to you on Facebook, said, "Hey, if you live, I want you on the podcast."
Don't want to get the cart before the horse, but if you should pull through, Trevor. I mean, let's not rush into that. But if you should pull through,
He's on the 44,000. He's like,
Hey man, I reached out. I reached out to Trevor and say, hey buddy, I love you. We're praying for you. So we have this little podcast.
oh, that's great. That's great. Whatever marketing it takes, man, I'm on board.
Hey Trevor,
tell you, Bob.
I just ordered a bunch of stuff right now. A lot.
I love it.
A lot of
love
stuff. So
Bob, I've got to know who does
Oh,
it.
I got what. Here's what I said. This is what I said before you woke from your slumber. I said, "Love you, dude. Thanks for being such a friend and encourager over the years. Maybe back off on pickleball."
Oh, man. You know what, though? The truth is, I think pickleball saved my life.
Whoa.
Let me tell you why.
Come
Because
on.
if I had not been in that car going home from the gym at that point, who knows? If I'd have been at church studying on Saturdays, which is kind of a common thing for pastors, if I'd been in my room, if I'd have had the heart attack then, I think it might have been more than 10 to 15 minutes before anybody noticed me. And by that time, it's too late.
Yeah.
So, by having that heart attack while I was in the vehicle, had lots of people witnessing what was going on and calling the police and getting the authorities there immediately.
That's awesome.
hey Trev, I got a question for you. You were talking about coming out of this and then just the joy and the peace and the thankfulness. Was there anything in reverse? I mean, was there any fears? I just wonder if it was on both sides, like this incredible joy and then kind of junk or something.
It's a great question. Well, I had several people who've been through circumstances that are similar enough. They've had open heart surgery or had a stroke or whatever, who said, you know what, Trevor, just beware the depression, the discouragement that probably is a natural part of the kind of trauma that you've experienced. So just be on the lookout for that. And I remember thinking at that moment, yeah, by God's grace, I haven't experienced that yet. And honestly, now I'm 4.5 weeks into it. The incident was 5 weeks ago, this very day, 5 weeks ago.
Wow.
And I actually feel really good. I don't really feel any pain. Over those 5 weeks, Will, I've really had very little discouragement or depression outside of just, my typical who I am as a person and crippling self-doubt that I struggle with regularly. But I've had very little. And I think it's mostly due to the fact that, honestly, I'm just so grateful to be alive. As much as I was quick to say, God, just take me, I'm even quicker now to say, thank you for preserving my life, God, because I know this is an act of your hand. There were a few people, though, who warned me to be cautious about the potential for anxiety. And I did experience a little bit of that. What if the surgery didn't go well? What if something happened? What if there's stuff going on inside of me that I'm not even aware of? Even in the hospital, I was thinking if I faint and I'm gone, even though there's nurses here, if it happens at the right time or the wrong time in the middle of the night, is a doctor going to be able to save me? So there's thoughts like that crowded my mind. Not a lot, just a few times where panic set in. So I stayed up all night a few nights because I was afraid to go to sleep. I didn't tell anybody that, but I'm sure the nurses knew. They've got cameras right into your room, so I'm sure they knew I was up watching.
Trevor,
on.
It's pretty normal for people that have heart surgery, especially, to undergo some kind of depression. After the surgery, there's this perhaps mystical connection between the organ that keeps us alive and our emotions, and so, I would just encourage you, brother, just pastorally, like, if it comes, I wouldn't see it as primarily a spiritual problem. Like, I think this has been a pattern for people for a really long time. So anyway.
Yeah, that's good advice, Jay. And like you said, it might actually be still to come. Because right now, even though the number of encouraging notes and texts and all that has slowed considerably. Weeks 1 and 2, I couldn't keep up with it. There were times where, honestly, in the hospital, I was tired just because being awake was tiring to me. let alone talking to people. That was tiring. But as much as I could, I always wanted visitors to come in and say hi. They were always really sensitive. I don't want it to come across like people were insensitive. They weren't. But even though that has slowed down, honestly, I feel like the sense of gratitude, the sense of thankfulness, I really believe that more than anything else, that's been such a buoyant part of what God has done in my life. But you're right. I mean, the idea of discouragement now waiting in the wings, I know it's there. And I know I kind of tend to know that I struggle with that anyway.
Yeah.
Can you think of a time, the days after the heart surgery, some moments that touched you?
Yeah. I was telling Bob about this earlier, but it is striking when you go through a life-changing event like this. It's striking which people rise to the surface, the people that you don't expect to be as compassionate and as caring as they are. For me, there were three main groups of people that immediately rose to the surface. One, of course, is my church family. I really don't understand how people go through traumatic events without a local church family, because they're the first on site. They are a rescue squad, and in so many ways, spiritually, emotionally, physically, just so supportive, not only to me, but to my family. So my wife and my kids all gathered together. My other three kids were all in other states, and they dropped what they were doing and surrounded my bed. And I remember having conversations with them, one of them on this side. Hey, Che, great to see you. And, man, here's what happened. Oh, man, I'm so glad to see you. Giselle, oh, when did you get here? Yeah. Che, when did you get here? And then going back and forth for those few days. But the other people that really rose to the top were church family. And, that's several hundred people that encouraged me, encouraged my family, sent them notes, provided meals for my family. And then up until I think even a week ago, so for 3 whole weeks, we're providing meals for my whole family, including extended family that was visiting. So our church family did all of that and are continuing to stay connected to me.
Awesome.
And the other pastors, there's 4 of us on full-time staff at our church. And the other 3 picked up all my responsibilities and have been running with them and have told me, Trevor, take it easy. Stay down as long as you need to. And so I haven't actually been back to work yet. I haven't actually been back to a service yet. I've been watching online. That group of people has been just so incredibly supportive. I'd say the second group, though, is people from my past that I haven't talked to in ages. One guy reached out to me immediately, like seconds after my heart attack, and said, hey, will you be on my podcast? Which it was just amazing.
Well played.
I didn't even know I'd had a heart attack. I'm still in La La Land and I'm being invited onto a podcast, of course. So this is my opportunity to skyrocket my reputation into fame. And so I know that after this podcast, they'll be asking me where I want my star on Hollywood Boulevard. So,
but on that note, the longer you lead in ministry, you're going to chart a course where people are going to disagree with you, especially from our, our background. It was pretty much a in-out type way of association. And so, you were a leader in some areas, and I was with you in some seasons where you got some serious heat, and I'm sure that, some of that stuff hurt, and you don't have to name names, but did anybody that had thrown some stones at you offer some comfort to you during this time?
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of what was so striking to me, that so many people from my past, people that perhaps I haven't pursued the way that I ought to, and I think we'll dig into that topic a little bit as well soon enough here, but people that I perhaps haven't pursued as strongly as I ought to have, and people like you said, Jay, who had conflict of one sort or another, varying levels of it for different reasons and so on. They were among the first to reach out and say, we love you. Wow. We've been praying for you. There are churches I've never even heard of who every Sunday, I've been told, have been praying for me by name. And I'm overwhelmed by that and by not just the compassion of it, but the far reaching effects. Because like I was saying, I think, who do I know? I'm no one of consequence. What in the world? And yet so many of these people from my past, whether it's the Northland or Maranatha past or whatever it might be, just so many have reached out. There is a third group, though, And this is the funny group. And this is over 100 people locally who are, I think, primarily unbelievers, people that don't know Jesus but know me and felt compassion for me. And that's my pickleball friends. You would be stunned how many of those people were the first in line to say, we're here for you. And what can we do? And people that I really didn't know well. A guy that I'd gotten into an argument with who was one of the first to visit me in the hospital. And that's been a real treat, because I'm trying to encourage them and I can't. I'm so weak, I can barely talk. And here they are just pouring out their version of compassion and love on me. It's honestly, don't tell me God doesn't have a sense of humor. It's been just so terrific to see people stumble over their words. Hey, Pastor, when can you play again? We just love you so much and can't wait to see. Here's a pickleball paddle. It's just been so great.
Oh, tell them your
fun.
nickname.
Oh, that's great.
Tell them your nickname.
Yeah. So a few people on the pickleball court, I like to do deceptive shots, look one way, hit the other, that sort of thing. A few people refer to me as the sinister minister on the pickleball court.
That's great. Sinister minister.
Yeah. So I had some texts from some of those people. But even just the encouragement of knowing people that I didn't know that I was that close to. Man, the cards they've written, I don't even know how many gift cards I've got right now, guys. Way too many.
One of the questions I have is, how have people ministered to your wife during this time? I'm sure that she's gone through quite a bit, and especially those first couple of weeks. How has people effectively ministered to your wife?
I think one of the primary ways was comforting her, reaching out to her, texting her, especially women in the church who know her well and know what she has a tendency to struggle with, or know what she might fall into, some of the traps that she could potentially fall into. She's gotten a lot of texts from friends and friends from the past as well, to let her know that they're praying specifically for her. I mentioned the meals that several provided. We kind of have a system in our church where people can sign up for that, and a couple of people help run that. But let me tell you, just the outpouring of kindness. I think every time somebody comes to visit me, they'll spend time with Dee Dee first, or which I don't blame them. I'd rather spend time with her than me. And I don't know how many people gave, slipped money to her, but I've been given money. Some of it was for the purpose of our family. Some of it was for the purpose of specific expenses. Someone asked how they could be a blessing, and Dee Dee, had an answer, and they stepped forward and provided for us in a financial way that was more than we would have ever asked someone. So I wrecked my car. That was our only car. The other two are with kids. Somebody basically stepped forward and said, we basically want to fund this used car that you've had your eye on. So there have been so many ways. I probably more. I wish that I had asked Dee Dee more specifically about all the ways, because there's been a lot.
You should ask for a Ram 250.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can take out the next apartment building unit by unit.
Yeah. It's just knowing you for so long, Trevor, especially at camp, and all the back end conversations about, are you valuable? Does God love me? All that kind of stuff. Can you tell us more about what you feel when people are giving to you? And then connect it to God. What do you feel? And then what are you learning about God, or how is God loving you?
How I feel is completely undeserving and completely self-conscious and ashamed. I feel a sense of shame that so many people would be so loving, and that the only reason they would do it is because they're giving out of a heart of sacrifice. The idea that, how Paul would say that if possible, you would even give your very lives for my sake. I felt a sense of that, a sense of just not being up to deserving whatever compassion they were pouring out on me. But I think it's a reminder to me, Will, that God's always in the long game. I think whatever lessons it is that I'm learning, can I really learn them in 4-5 weeks? No way. But it's another phase of my learning set. Recently I was just reminded of the life of Joseph, and I don't know how it is that I never saw this before. You guys will all probably know this immediately. But, of course, Joseph is a textbook example of what it looks like to forgive those that are closest to you, to forgive your family when you feel betrayed by your own family. So, we find Joseph being betrayed into slavery when he's 17. It wasn't until 22 years later when he was second in command only to Pharaoh in Egypt. 22 years later is when he's year 2 into the years of famine after the 7 years of plenty. So 22 years later is when he sees his brothers, and he strings them along a little bit, and then eventually reveals himself in tears and welcomes them and says, go get dad, bring him here, and bring my whole extended family, and we're going to give him the richest of the land that Egypt has to offer. And all of that happens. I mean, what an incredible lesson on forgiveness. In my mind's eye, I'd always pictured that as the point where Genesis 50:20 comes into clear focus. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. And God showed me something. Genesis 50 verse 20 doesn't happen after that reunion, that glorious 22-year reunion, where I can feel some of the angst in Joseph's life, and yet he submits and says, all right, I know the right thing to do. I know what God's doing. It's clear God's hand was on this. It wasn't until he didn't make the statement, God intended it for good. You meant it for evil. He doesn't make that statement until 17 years later.
Glory.
It's the moment that his dad dies. And for whatever reason, his brothers still wondered, is he holding a grudge? And is he going to ship us out now that dad is gone? And that's the moment. That's the moment where he says, you meant it for evil, God meant it for good. And it reminded me that forgiveness is an ongoing lesson.
Yeah, that's right.
And I struggle with it anyway. And I know part of the reason that God preserved my life is because there's some relationships that should be more important to me. And that I've said, I forgive you, or I've said, I need your forgiveness, that God's going to have to bring some depth to over the next years that he gives me. And I'm going to have to learn another level of depth to that. I know it.
Okay. So let's go there, right there. Because I think we all, including the people listening on the podcast, have people that we have verbally said, I forgive you to. And if we saw them on a sidewalk, we'd still have a hard time having a conversation or not feeling negative emotions towards. But when I'd say when you see the red and blue lights in the rearview mirror of your life and like you get that shock, has that changed at all?
I think the thing that has changed for me is the fact that I probably at a time before my death, I probably at a time would have thought, I'll get to it. And now I think my thought is, I'm doing it. I'm doing it now. What step do I need to take today, God? What are some things that I should be doing right now? How can you prepare my heart, God? Not just so-and-so's heart, but mine, because I'm still not getting it, God. And I know I'm not getting it because I'm not picking up the darn phone. And I don't know why I'm not picking up the phone, but I know it's wrong. And you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to do something deeper in order for me to get this, because I'm stubborn, God.
Well, folks, after this podcast, we're going to start 1-800-CALL-TREV. And if you've got a grudge,
don't call me. No,
I'll call you.
I feel like that's pre-grace priming the pump. Like, it's going to happen. Like, if you're talking that way right now, like, it's probably just a few days away. I mean, I've experienced that before too. And you just get to a point where you can't shake it anymore, and it's like, okay, and it's Jesus in me, through me, picking up that phone. It is him that worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. So it's in process. Again, our tradition that we were raised in theologically was really kind of a theology of lightning bolt moments, right? And I think the New Testament pattern is just much more drawn out. It's longer. It's like we all say, sanctification is a process, right? And there's things like that I was hot and heavy on 2 years ago when I began this cancer journey, and I could articulate with just intense, deep clarity, and I've forgotten them, and I'm going to have to pick them back up again. And it's almost like God's work of sanctification is a perpetual searing into your heart and mind these truths, and at some point we don't lose it. We don't lose them, and they're just there. They're like they're not in the ROM, they're in the RAM. They're in the random access memory that you can call to remembrance and call to usefulness. But it's not, Christianity is not a series of lightning bolt strikes.
Yeah, so true. I mean, it's just a reminder to me that I can say that I have faith, but unless it really is evident in the way that I live, not just works in the sense that we define them in modern culture, but works in the way that they're defined biblically in the book of James, is my faith really taking root in my life enough so that it's noticeable in my actions? Are the people that I've had these conflicts with, these people that I've said the nice words because they were the right words, and I meant those words, but who over the last 2 years I haven't said boo to? Are these people who can really see in my life the outworking of the faith that I say that I have? Probably not. And so there's a part of me that says, all right, how many bypasses how many times do you have to have open heart surgery, Gearhart?
Yeah.
Before you realize this is something that God, I mean, I ask him all the time, Father, I'm stubborn, make it obvious. Okay. Maybe running into a building is a great way for me to see something obvious. Maybe dying and being brought back to life. Maybe, just maybe, Trevor, there's a message in there.
I do think what's blessed me right now is when you told the Joseph story, one thing we did get really strong was the Bible is the Word of God, and we are to submit to it, and to see you live and in color sanctify the through the Word, and basically say, I am submitting to the Word, and it may take me 17 years to completely release and see God's sovereign hand in my life. But you're doing that, and that just blesses me. And I think, I just see within the Christian church that's the key. I mean, like, ultimately, we're not the king, and for you to submit to the king blesses me, and I hope it blesses other people when they hear this. I mean, it's God takes, what is it, Josh? Dad always says God often sacrifices the physical for the spiritual. Like that's kind of his currency. And so sometimes he jolts us to provide that sanctifying effect in our lives. So thanks, brother, for submitting to the Word.
Yeah, and make no mistake, I think probably, the Bible doesn't tell us clearly, but I think probably Joseph had that sentiment as a 39-year-old when he was forgiving his brothers, 22 years after the fact that they'd sold him into slavery. I think he meant that, and I think we all get good, or at least I do. I get good at saying the right words, because I know them to be right, and I know God's word is true. But is that really in the depths of my heart, in the recesses of my heart, is that really what's pushing me, not just to obedience, but to living the life that God has called me to, a life that really is filled with fullness? Or am I begrudging in it? I'll shake hands with my brother that I argued with, and I'll tell him I love him, but I don't. And 17 years later, this is Joseph now 56 years old, the age that I am today. And I wonder if there's a part of his life where he's saying, you know what, I may have said it before, but let me tell you, here's what the depths of my heart looks like now.
All right, let's go back to the hospital bed. You're laying there. You're either having surgery or recovering from surgery. And it's you and God. And, we have the Word and we have the revelation and we have the verses in our minds, but sometimes when it's just you and God, there's a different conversation perhaps. And I just wonder if you could let a peek into your world, and what was the conversation like with you and God?
Yeah. Yep. You're going to love this too, Jay, because this is like word for word. What the heck are you doing? What the heck are you doing? I told you that I thought it was probably my time, and this was the perfect opportunity. What are you doing? And I genuinely meant that. And for all the reasons, I know what my life insurance policy is, and I know that my family could use that. In fact, I wonder if they could use that more than they could use Me Alive Radio right now. Those are the lies that you tell yourself in moments like that. The lights are out, it's dark, and it's just you and God, and the TV on mute in the hospital bed. But I think that, what are you doing? That was probably the thing that I asked the most. And, I didn't hear a verbal answer from God, but the thing that just I could not escape is, because he loves me, because he loves me. And because he loves me enough to help me mend some fences. You know, there were the names of like 4 or 5 people, 2 of them super close to me, that God just kept bringing to my mind. You know, what about so-and-so? What about so-and-so? What are you going to do? You know, and in a couple of those 2 cases in particular, extended family, you know, a little closer than I care to admit. And, you know, so God's answer was, what are you doing? What are you doing? Let me remind you of this name. And let me remind you of what you said about your desire to right some wrongs. So, you know, I had a very different sense of asking him what he's doing, as opposed to the one that I believe he was giving back to me. And I feel like I've got a sense of mission that I can't shake.
Man, yeah.
Wow.
And then there's this, sometimes like trials give us a new perspective on truths that we've known or passages. You've already given us one in the Joseph. Are there other facets to the diamonds of biblical truth you go, this became bold print for me?
It did. I think all the times that God promises to be our strength, our shield, our courage, our rock, not just our salvation, which I think all of us understand, but the fact that he will defend. Underneath are the everlasting arms. And God is the one who supports me. God is the one who gives me strength. Because honestly, man, as a pastor, I visit people in the hospital all the time, and I really do sympathize with them. And I feel bad for the fact that they're laying in a hospital bed and they just want to get out. But let me tell you, so much of the time you spend in the hospital feels like wasted time. It's not, because your body's healing and you need the hospital staff to observe you and to make sure your vitals are good and all this stuff. But man, it feels like wasted time. All I'm doing is lying here, and all I'm doing is just burdening the people. I can't even get up and use the restroom without help. And not knowing in that first visit how long I was going to be there, because, you know, there's all kinds of things that have to happen before they let you out of the hospital. And, you know, we're praying for you by well-intentioned people. You know, even there was a chaplain that showed up, and it was, honestly, he was so gracious and so kind. He was an African guy with an accent. Oh, Brother Trevor, we're just praying for you. We are so happy that you are alive. God, thank you that this man is alive. It was super encouraging just to spend time with him. But I just felt like such a waste. And I felt like so much of my time is just being wasted sitting here doing nothing. And it's in those moments that I really believe God gave me a real sense of understanding. He's my strength. He's my support. He's my foundation. He is the one who is bearing the burden. I don't have to bear it alone. And I know that sounds so cliche, but the sense of that, the actual tangible sensation of really believing and trusting God for that, that's something that when the days seem endless, when the nights seem really long, that's something that I think really has to be such a vital truth to get past. Beautiful. Just the everyday of the healing process. So I was in the hospital for a week, then out for a whole week. And as I stood up here in my house, my mind started getting a little foggy and I thought I was going to faint every time I stood up, and I realized, okay, something's wrong. So I made my way downstairs like Saturday night late. It was probably 2 or 3 in the morning. And I thought, I'm not sure if even laying down, I'm not sure if I'm going to be okay. I thought I'm going to pass out. So I texted Dee Dee, hey, let me know when you wake up, which was a bad idea. I should have awakened her, but I had to slide on my rear down the steps one at a time, slowly, just so I didn't faint and fall down the stairs. I knew something was wrong. And so once Dee Dee got up, I said, honey, I think I probably need to go to the emergency room. And then I got on the internet on my phone and was Googling my symptoms. Horrible thing to do, because basically they were telling me I'm dead again already. But got to the emergency room. Turns out I had an ulcer that was bleeding. So I was hemorrhaging inside, and I didn't even realize that. And so they got 3 units of blood into me, a couple of units of iron, and did all the scopes that they've got to do. There was, I don't even remember, there were 3 or 4 different types of scopes they did, and it looked like my heart was functioning correctly, but that sometimes when you have heart surgery, you can end up with an ulcer, and it was bleeding. And so they had to decide, are they going to clip that off, or are they going to treat it with meds? They ended up treating it with meds. But I thought once they figured out what was going on, Sunday to a Tuesday, I'd probably get out on Wednesday. And that was not the case, because then they find other things going on. Oh, your hemoglobin's low, and now your heart rate is too high, your blood pressure's too low. We don't have meds that can handle both of those simultaneously. And there was a point where on Thursday morning, I thought, if they don't let me go today, so Sunday to Thursday, after a week in the hospital, a week out, Sunday to Thursday, I'm in the hospital again. And there was a moment, guys, where I thought, I am never leaving the hospital. They're always going to think of some reason for me to be here. And I think that's where I lost sight of, I'll strengthen you, I'll help you. My everlasting arms are underneath. And for a split second, there was just very real doubt. And fortunately, later that afternoon, they ended up allowing me to be discharged from the hospital. But that was a tough time. The second stay was probably tougher than the first, because I don't remember so much of the first.
Right.
Do you think this will change your pastoring? I mean, you've always been like the, fun guy, the platform guy, the pickleball guy, the life of the party guy. But, you kind of sailed through on the physical side pretty strong. And I mean, at least from what I know. And, but pastors are at bedsides a lot. And part of pastoring is walking with people in suffering. So speaking to that a little bit.
Absolutely, especially as it relates to dealing with people in the hospital, where people that are facing life-threatening situations like that, or that have been through trauma. I think I'll know better what questions to ask them. How are you doing? I don't know how I'm doing. I'm struggling. I'm suffering. But praying that they get specific answers and they get realistic answers, and that they have realistic goals that they can set, and by God's grace, take a step of healing, take a step of now getting out of the hospital and back on a healthy path. I mean, certainly the way that I counsel people in those scenarios is going to be different. But I think even just, so I had one moment of a couple of people that are dear to me in the hospital room when a doctor came in that I hadn't seen, who I was supposed to leave, I thought on a Tuesday, didn't work out, thought I was going to leave on a Wednesday, and this is that second visit, who on a Thursday morning, a doctor I hadn't even seen, basically looking at a chart in front of me and saying, looks like we're going to have to keep you another 24 hours. And I said, no, you don't understand. I am going crazy in here. And if you make me stay another 24 hours, I might lose my mind. And a couple people from our church that I love and respect were standing there. And I think their eyes were kind of wide, like, what is Pastor Trevor saying? So another thing that I think I'll probably do in my counseling as a pastor is leave a little space for people to be wild-eyed and crazy. I think in that setting, you got to give people a bit of grace.
I was at dinner with Will a number of years ago, and I started having a pain in my chest. And turns out I was having a minor myocardial infarction, I think they call it. And I went to the hospital. I had myocarditis, and I was in coronary ICU for 5 days. Maybe it was just Will's presence around me. I'm not sure. But then, every time I got a pain in my chest, I thought I was having another, heart deal. And it started to have a toll on me. Like, it actually had a psychological effect that you're thinking about the brevity of life way more. And, now I'm 20 years past that episode. But do you find yourself, whether it's just going through life or whether it's the pains you feel, I mean, because this ulcer thing came up out of nowhere. And, that it just, sometimes it feels like it takes years off your life. I mean, how are you 5 weeks out handling your frailty and fears?
So every time there's a new pain that I think, oh man, I don't remember that. I don't remember that happening before. Of course, your mind goes to all of those places. In my mind's eye, I'm picturing, the garden hose that's spurting everywhere. That's one of my veins that disconnected from my heart. Blood is going everywhere. That's the picture in my mind's eye. And those are the moments where I have to take a deep breath and say, all right, God, you're going to have to show me. I don't remember breathing in this deeply and feeling that pain there. I don't remember sleeping on my side and feeling that kind of heaviness. I don't remember, whatever it might be. I think you'll probably always battle those moments of anxiety, but they haven't been so overwhelming that I felt like I could get past them. I did stop Googling everything. You want to be filled with anxiety and panic. Just Google upper chest pain after bypass. Just try that. Nothing but horrifying outcomes. So I've managed to get past all that without being too bogged down by it.
Before we started, Trevor, we kind of talked about how you and I, in a sense, are mirror images of this valley, because I had several months leading up to what I thought was my impending doom, and then you had your impending doom, and now you're a few weeks away from it. So it's almost like you're at the beginning in many ways, but there's so many things you've already said that are overlaps, and they're triggering to me in a really delightful way. Like, I've been sitting here already tearing up. One of the things you said was one of your overwhelming emotions right after you regained consciousness was just gratitude. And I don't think that makes full sense without a supernatural perspective, right? I mean, certainly in the natural world, you can be grateful that you've survived. But in the supernatural realm, you understand, oh, I'm now here for a reason. And you talked about the missionality or renewed mission. And that has been an absolute theme in my life. Like, I wake up with oodles of mission, overwhelming amounts of mission. And that's really by God's grace. This is not me pounding my chest, Captain Christian here, but I guess I'd like you to talk about, what do you see now clearer? Because I think suffering and death is a great clarifier. What is Trevor's mission?
Yeah, that's a great question, Bob. I would describe it as an escalated sense of urgency. You know, I think all of us understand that eternity is real and we only have so many years on this earth. And those things are true. But I think that it becomes white noise in the back of your mind when it becomes routine. But when you're at death's door, actually, my mom said, Trevor, you weren't at death's door. You were inside the gate and the gate was shut. They had to break it down and drag you back out. There is a sense of reality to that. I think I mentioned to you guys that I met the fire and rescue guys that dragged me out. Young guys, both of them, young guys, and enjoyed my conversation with them and just talking just briefly about the fact that there's an eternity beyond this life and so on. Strikingly enough, the day after I had that, I think that was 4 weeks in, I had that meeting with the fire and rescue guys. The day after, in the mail, I got the bill from the town of Normal for the rescue team. And fortunately, I think insurance will have something to say about that. But those guys are just doing their job, and they're interested in people and so on. But the sense of urgency that I now have moving forward, the sense of missional urgency, I think I felt it before, but certainly not with the same fervor that I do now.
Yeah, you're burning, man, and I can feel it. I can sense it. It gets me pumped, man. I'm jazzed. I'm ready to go William Wallace out there.
Yeah, and I would say too, you're exactly right, Bob. But for me, it's more than just a sense of duty or obligation. It is that, but it's more than just that. It is the voice of God in my heart, in my mind, asking me why I haven't made the call. You know, asking me what step I need to take, and why do I not at least ask what the step is, or why have I not taken the step? How long are you going to let this go? I mean, why and how, Trevor, is there not at least some forward moving progress?
Well, I'm just going to pause right now and pray. I'm going to pray for clarity. I'm going to pray for unction. I'm going to pray that you get her done. And so, Lord, I just come to you on behalf of my dear friend Trevor. Lord, thank you so much for sparing his life. Thank you that he's still with us. Thank you for the massive blessing he's been here in this past hour. And God, he has articulated some specific relationships that are part of this mission. And I pray that you would grace him, give him everything he needs to pick up that phone, that you would give him the words to begin the conversation, that you would go ahead and prepare the way, pave the way before him, and that there would be reconciliation, there would be love, there would just be an absolute picture of gospel grace in him and through him. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I'm sure there's going to be some people, maybe some of your pickleball buddies, maybe some of my friends and family that aren't believers. And just like you had unbelievers try to minister, and certainly did minister to you during your suffering and affliction, I had those that would not be Christians minister to me. At the same time, you were talking about how in the hospital you had a very real sense that God was your strength, that God was a very present help in time of need. And I just want to look in the camera and tell people that is not a placebo. That is the reality that we are in, where you have a very kind and merciful Creator God. And if you're listening to this right now, may He grace you with that light, that the knowledge to understand that you are loved. You are absolutely loved, and that all of us on this podcast have this mission to share that love and invite you into that love. So come on in. Come. You don't have to sign anything. You don't have to join anything. You have to come to your God, having nothing, needing everything. And when you humble yourself, you find His smile, you find His welcome, you find everything you need.
So one passage that I think brings that principle into clear focus, Bob, and I get to teach through the book of Acts every year through in our school, our Christian school, with a bunch of ninth graders, and I always marvel. I'm always amazed at how rich the book is and how much God teaches me every time I go through it. But see if this doesn't resonate with the very point that you're making. In Acts chapter 4, verse 13, Peter and John appear before the religious leaders, who basically tell them, knock it off. Stop talking about Jesus as the Son of God, the promised Messiah. We all know He's not, because He's dead, He's gone. So knock it off. And we'll let you out of jail for now, but just stop preaching in His name. And they basically say, we can't stop. This is what God has called us to do. And in Acts chapter 4, verse 13, notice how Luke writes these incredible words. Now, when that's the religious leaders, when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were uneducated, common men,
Yes.
they were astonished. And they recognized one thing about them, that they had been with Jesus.
Yeah, come on.
And if there is anything that people can say about my life,
Yeah.
not that I had a heart attack, not that, oh, what a nice guy, or not that I went through this trauma and my faith pulled me through. I hope there's one thing that people can recognize about me, even though I'm common, uneducated, kind of snarky, stubborn, and pretty darn unforgiving, and a lot of issues. I trust that they can say, you know what? That guy bears the mark of Jesus. And that's what I want. And that's really all you're saying. That's exactly what you're talking about, Bob.
Amen, man.
Well, Trev, if you had gone to Northland, you would have heard about forgiveness more. So just so you know.
Hey, listen, I could have ignored it just as well there as I did anywhere else.
Yeah, we heard the Genesis 50 message like when we were 22. So anyway. So
I just want to talk about it. I don't actually want to do it. I just want to talk about it.
Yeah, that's Maranatha for you.
Oh, mercy.
So you reminded me earlier today on a phone call, Trev, that our relationship goes back to 77, 78.
Long time.
A long time. Growing up with you, I'm going to tell two stories. One kind of funny and one just meaningful to me. One, I remember breaking my arm sliding down a hill at your house. You remember that? That little flimsy plastic thing you called a sled.
I do.
Big open field. And there's nothing out there except for one lone post, and I go directly into it. And I milk that for weeks.
That's the story of your life, Murph.
Yeah. for weeks and weeks, every time I saw Trevor, I tried to make him feel bad. Like I would hold it up and look at him. You did this. This is your fault.
I almost don't want to go on this trip this weekend with you, Murph, because you like hit poles.
You and I were kind of we were growing up in single parent homes, which wasn't, there weren't exactly a lot of us around that school and that church with single parent homes. And you're a few years older than me, and you did always take it on yourself to kind of look out for me a little bit. Do you remember how bad my speech impediment was back then? And people just always making fun of me because I couldn't get words out. And I just remember this dude that I just idolized as a kid, always sticking up for me in those moments. And I'm 50 now, and that was happening when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, and it's still a beautiful thing to me. I still remember it and love you for it all these years later.
Man, oh man. I'm grateful to hear that, Ellis. I know too many stories of me making wrong and unwise choices, so a few good ones here and there. It's probably not.
You made 2 poor choices growing up, so all these stories.
Come on, Ellis. Ellis, you got 2?
That's great. That's great.
Trev, I think we've known each other for 30 plus years. And I remember just recently, several years back, you called and said you want to take your youth group on a missions trip, or your seniors in high school or something. And I'm like, you want to know if you come to inner city Denver? And I was like, well, if you come here for a missions trip, like, we do it real. Like if you want to know about like homelessness and gang work and the multi-ethnic church, and we actually do a 3-day simulation where you actually go homeless. And I just don't know if your seniors on your senior trip want to go homeless for 2 days. And you were like, let's do it. And I think it was in the winter, or it was on the shoulder season where it was cold. And we literally, people go homeless. We don't tell them where they're going. Then we send them on like an 8-mile trek. They have to walk down this sidewalk forever. And then they have to sleep outside. And then we stage it where we like throw rocks at them in the middle of the night, while they're sleeping. And and I think the weather turned cold. And I think halfway through, Trevor had enough of urban camping and was done with spiritual formation and walking with the poor. And I just laughed and walked out, I think, in Christian love. I wanted you to finish the suffering.
As I recall, we had only the clothes on our backs that we were able to purchase with like $5 worth of money from Goodwill. And then everything was basically taken from us. And then I think it was in April. It was either March or April, sometime like that. You got that biggest spring snowstorm that you had in Denver in years. And we're sleeping outside trying to shield and protect ourselves with $5 worth of stuff from Goodwill. And it wasn't working, man.
Yeah, because we tell all the kids, pack up, get all your stuff, because you're going to go homeless for 2 days. So they come with their backpacks full, and then they show up, and we take all of their backpacks and give them $5 and say, go get your clothes.
I don't think I have ever since then eaten a donut out of the trash can, but I did that few days. Absolutely. I have never walked into a restaurant and said, hey, do you have anything? We got nothing. Do you have anything we can eat? And I don't care what it is. They gave us these tamales, and I think they come in like corn husks, tamales do, or whatever, which I didn't know. And
So
I
you
ate
ate
the husk.
the husk.
I ate the corn husk, man. I was starved.
That's the Midwest for you. Will, any Trevor story?
Yeah, I think all those years at camp, and then 30 years knowing you too, and I think we kind of collided initially, and you thought I was too serious. I thought you were too shallow, and we just went right at it. Like I remember we sat together and we're like, I'm going to stop changing you, and you're going to stop changing me, and all of a sudden there was pretty sweet friendship. And some of my favorite memories were late night in your office. And I knew I was going to start getting teary because of how it fits in your story now. But remember, we'd get in and we'd play like N64. All the campers are in bed without their electronics, and we're in there playing some, game where you chase each other around, throwing eggs at each other. But I think the memory that probably is the most deep is when you were just going through a terrible season, and you were about done, and the Lord met with us, and you're still here. And I think that, like in the middle of those moments, you don't realize the depth of it, and yet, I think now when I'm 50, I'm like, wow, that was one of those pretty deep moments where God kept us. And, I think the fun stuff, there was so many funny things. I think the way our personalities would collide and complement in a weird way. And the best one was when you were counseling a kid, and and he just wasn't having it, and he pooped in somebody's pillow, and you're just like, you're fit to be tied. You call me in there. I start talking to him. He didn't really have a real mature. He wasn't that mature. So it's like I'm trying to rationalize with the kid. It's not even rational. But the theme was Ephesians 4. So there was a little phrase in there. Did Jesus teach you that? And so finally I'm like, did Jesus teach you to poop in the pillow? And Trevor
that helped him in the hospital last week.
Trevor goes fetal. Trevor, I'm talking, the kid's between us, Trevor's behind, and he just goes fetal. Trevor's on the ground, like laughing. And probably the best thing about this story is, I was all in, man. I was trying to help this kid. Trevor is like, he's like, oh, I've got the story that I can wreck Will's life every summer. And from that summer till we were done, somewhere, usually 4th of July, he would tell that story to the entire camp staff.
Yep.
But it got better and better.
But didn't the kid respond? Didn't the kid go, no, man, Jesus didn't teach me to poop in the pillow?
Yes! That's exactly.
He was broken. He was like penitent. Repentant.
Well, Trevor, we want to send you off by honestly just telling you what we appreciate about you. I think when I saw the notice, I think Pastor Loggins, I saw a report by him, and I was like, oh no. And not Trevor Gearhart, And, in those moments, you start playing a videotape in your own head of like, oh my gosh, how long has it been since I talked to Trev? Oh my gosh, we go through our lives. And so I was like, praying, but also like sadness, when they said they had to resuscitate you. And I thought, oh man, of course I remember my brother, and, I thought, man, if he's got a brain injury and all this stuff. But I sit back and I reflect, and I'm like, there's two things that came to my mind. One was, there's some fairy tale out there, and I don't remember what it was, but it was this horse that kids loved on, and they would pet the horse, and they pet the horse so much the skin rubbed off, And, I think for the first period of our relationship that I knew you, like you were the fun guy and the camp guy and the program guy. But you ministered to a lot of people, and a lot of people loved on you, but I always felt there was like this kind of a little bit of a protective shell around you. And then you entered like some hurts, and like almost like that shell broke off, and like you became this, just a different level of realness. And that has been a beautiful thing that I've seen in you. Even this podcast, it just like, I'm so blessed that you were very open in sharing with people in self-deprecating ways the struggles that you've had, and so that's been a blessing. And then I also want to say, at this age, tenure means a lot to me as far as looking at other people who are running the race and going, oh, they're still running the race and they're still at it and they're still pursuing Jesus. And it's tough and people are brutal and betrayal is real and you're still running the race. You're still like pursuing Christ. And I'm 52. You must be like 68 by now, but like, you know, I'm just grateful, bro, that you are persevering. And I want to tell you, it is encouraging to me. You are encouraging to me. And it's a blessing to spend this time with you tonight.
Amen.
Jay, thanks, man. That means a lot. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I said it tongue in cheek at the outset, but when you guys invited me onto the podcast, I did feel a sense of celebrity. Wow. I get to hang out with those five cool guys for a little bit. So the feeling really is mutual, Jay. So I admire you guys. I love you guys.
You know, Jay, I think I recognize the two phases, right? Like the super duper fun upstage or on stage guy. But even during those years when Trevor was identified more by that, he was still accessible. I still remember having conversations and him reaching out and him taking time and investing in people and watching him invest in others. So I think that's always been there in his DNA. And then I think through different sufferings and trials and brokennesses, it just gets amplified. And I think that's what suffering does. Suffering removes layers so Jesus shines brighter through those cracks, man. I mean, Christ in you, the hope of glory. And you know, Trevor, you've just shined so very brightly here in this last hour, and I have to just get back to my sweeping cosmic victory theology here, that what Satan meant for evil here recently, in that he wanted your accident to cause you to either die or wake up from the hospital bed and fear death and forsake God. And it's done just the opposite. And because of the victory of the cross, again, this is the very rich theology that we enjoy as Christians, is that God can take the weapons of chaos and decreation out of the hand of the enemy and absolutely use them to blast forth his grace, his goodness, his message through our weakness. God flexes in our weakest moments. And I've seen it so much just in the last hour, and I just want to shout, glory! Go, Jesus, go! Go, Jesus, go! In the life of my brother Trevor.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. Thank you, Bob.
You know, Trevor, we've kind of weaved in and out of each other's lives here and there over the last almost 50 years, I guess. And I went from that stage of just idolizing you as a big brother, to a stage of man, I actually respect him as a man. We're friends. And then, is anyone really a friend with Trevor? Kind of shallow. And the last time we saw each other before you had this heart attack, you had said, man, I've kind of avoided deep friendships and I want to dive deeper. I have absolutely, the little bit we've talked since you had the heart attack, to hear that resonate from you, with even, I guess, more focus, more intentionality, is so encouraging to me. And I actually love that for you. It's growth and development and maybe the one glaring weakness in this guy Trevor that we all just adore. And I love seeing it, and I can't wait to become more of a friend to you, my brother.
Yeah.
I just, man, I'm so thankful for you, Trevor. And I just am, thanks for like being willing to be transparent and real. And, I think just because the type of relationship you and I had, like you let me in back when you were still saying about your hurts. You're like, I wasn't hurt. I just never want to see him again. And then you and I were in a rough season at Northland. It went to like, yeah, it hurt and I hate you. And then just on the phone last year, it was like, I probably should, but I don't know if I'm ready to. To hear you actually like talk like I'm going to is like, to me, is so faith giving. I mean, I just love you, brother, and I'm just so thankful for you, and thanks for these years. So,
Likewise, Will. I really would love to respond to all of you individually, but I'll tell you a collective thank you, and I love what God's doing through the podcast, Bob. I'm so grateful that not only is the gospel being proclaimed, and not only are people finding out about your journey, but the truth is that we're learning a bit of how God uses brokenness to accomplish his fullness. And I love it. I think the world needs more of that. So, guys, this has been such an enriching time for me. And I thought that I was coming on the show to try in some small way to help you with your podcast. You guys have poured into me and enriched me in ways that I can't describe. So thank you. Thank you.
Amen.
Love you.
Amen. Love you too. So by the time you're watching this, we may either be in Pennsylvania, or you may have listened to this after we've been in Pennsylvania, but Dead Man Talking is taking a trip to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania to appear in a couple churches. And we're also going to get to know Cancer Face. So Bob, you started the podcast with Cancer Face. You have to explain Cancer Face and then give us a couple cameos of Cancer Face, because we all need to know what that is now.
Yeah, Cancer Face was a character that was invented just to help my family deal with the original diagnosis of cancer and the darkness there that came from that diagnosis. And so, one of the tools of grace was just laughter. And Cancer Face is this character that is just completely self-absorbed. Like he knows he has cancer, he knows he's dying, so he just expects the whole world to revolve around him. And so he's extraordinarily needy, and he doesn't care about any kind of embarrassment or humiliation that would come from that level of neediness. He's really oblivious to it, but he might just say to his wife, "Cancer Face needs some drinks in here. I've been sitting here with water. Water? Are you serious? Are you kidding me? Cancer Face doesn't need water. He needs high C fruit drink."
Oh, for the love.
Oh, man. Oh, I
So,
can't
Philly,
wait.
this is the exact kind of entertainment you can expect this weekend.
What was really funny is, like, my daughter would come home from school on my darkest chemo days, like when I'm just barely functioning. And she wouldn't even knock. She'd just bust through the door and go, "Hey, Cancer Face, hope you're doing okay," and then shut the door. Yeah.
Oh. All right, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you for joining us today on the Dead Man Talking podcast. We hope this conversation impacted you. And if you know somebody else who could use it and be blessed by it, feel free to share it. Let's remember, we never know how many conversations we have left. So let's be grateful for every single one and make everyone count. God bless, and we look forward to our next talk together.